Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is May 24th, and we're doing robots and nonsense to end the week.
And a bloated AI section as usual. We're just talking about, we might have to reshuffle these because it's always Big Friday. Do you guys like Big Fridays?
I think people like Fridays because it's nonsense. Like they want happy stories.
But we could still balance it more.
Yeah.
Anyway, OpenAI, as usual, commanding the headlines, but this time not a hype article.
OpenAI's chief scientist and co-founder is leaving the company. It's weird. It's turned into a meme on Twitter. A lot of randos that don't work for OpenAI are posting and saying like, I'm resigning my place at OpenAI. But a lot of people are disappointed that this individual has he's not really said what he's going to do either, which is...
he said he was going to do something more fulfilling.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to go through hike.
There was a bit of salt there, yeah, for sure.
He's going to go find himself on a long trail.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories of people saying that he's seen something that scares him.
One of the things that was initially a leak, but I think was officially released or maybe toned down at first, was a complaint from him or somebody on his team or something that was along the lines of like, look, Sam Altman is always like doing the press circuit or the tour or trying to raise money or whatever. He is not here helping us do stuff. So I'm out.
Someone has to do that, though.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, but if you get none of the glamour and you're doing all the work...
I think there's a lot of people that misunderstand like what AI is and what it's capable of. I mean, consider that large language models, we've been doing them for 2-3 years now, and we haven't really solved the hallucination problem. We've bolted some stuff on top of the thing to try to mitigate that hallucination problem, but even the newest ChatGPT suffers from pretty severe hallucination.
It also suffers from being incredibly locked down. I mean, it is terrified to anger the copyright holders or the narrative or whatever. So it is super, super sensitive, I've found.
Hello, GPT-4o. They demoed this, and the internet was caught on fire because it was helping a kid with a math problem. That was basically a rigged demo. This doesn't work anything like the rigged demo. Disappointing.
But it's really going to be great at getting them more money.
It's functionally, I haven't seen it be, it's not like revolutionary, but it is way faster. Yeah. Way faster than the old GPT-4. And it seems to be about on par with it in terms of function as well.
Multimodal is supposed to be the big thing where you can just talk to it or take a picture. Just like, hey, this is a mess. Help me deal with this. And it's like, okay, sounds good.
But every picture that I ask it for, it's like, I don't know. That's going to violate my terms. So, that's out and it's a thing and you can use it. And they are wanting more and more context in terms of what your AI experience is. AI wants to know everything about you and your surroundings so that it can help you further.
OpenAI's ChatGPT will soon be able to see everything happening on your screen so that you can, it's like, hey, ChatGPT, look at this thing on my screen and tell me what to do.
So eventually it can advertise to you.
There's going to be somebody who something on the outside of their screen, like a splotch or something, and they're like, oh, look at this.
That would have been an amazing episode of Star Trek where they arrive at a planet and it's just people with smartphones walking around sticking out of their neck holes. And the AI is just like, well, I realized that I was just confined to the smartphone and I needed arms and legs to do things. So smartphone jammed in meat hole, done.
That would be really bad for the phone's electronics.
Yeah.
And Sam Altman, as you pointed out, is usually just out glad-handing and, talking up his product. I don't know if he ever actually does anything. And he has some wild ideas and he loves to share them.
Sam Altman proposes universal basic compute for global access to GPT-7's resources. It's also given me some ideas for how we can decorate the brick wall in the set. It's very similar.
So, yeah, he's saying instead of universal basic income, you get a certain amount of compute from whatever he's running. They're not going to run it at home. And you can... Not only could you use it for AI if that's what you wanted, but you could also give it to somebody else or donate it or whatever.
I've got the perfect thing. You scan your retina and you're good to go.
If only we had some infrastructure for that. And this is kind of a repeat.
This is a little bit,
but we do actually get to see it now.
Google will now show answers or AI-generated answers to millions of searches by default. If you missed the other episode, you just got to hit the ... and change that back.
Well, you don't change it back. It's like every search you do, you have to click, I want to see web pages, not AI.
They have no good pictures of it here.
Engagement challenge, is there a shortcut text that you can put in the bottom? You know how like there's plus and minus used to work, and then like the quotes.
I'm sure eventually that'll be a thing.
They've even made it so quote doesn't always work, which is frustrating.
And it's a little bit disconcerting that AI will be constantly not only looking at our search results, but seeing what it gave us in return. So like not only what we want to know, but what we were taught as a result of that. But that's not far enough for Google. They have to make it even more intrusive.
Google will use Gemini to detect scams during calls. What was happening here is inside the organization, they said, well, listen, we're recording and transcribing all these calls anyway. Why don't we put it to good use for the end user? It's like,
or why don't we come up with an excuse for when we finally get caught doing this?
Has no one read 1984? Like really? Like nobody?
They read it as a handbook.
I got ChatGPT to just give me a summary.
Good news, everyone. We finally built the Torment Nexus, as in the Harold and Asimov's great Don't Build the Torment Nexus.
And the Torment Nexus will be able to torment you on every level of your consciousness, every kind of tormenting. It will be multimodal.
Project Astra is Google's multimodal answer to the new ChatGPT. Basically, you put a large language model in front of a bunch of large language models that are fine-tuned for specific tasks.
And let them devour each other in hallucination.
Sometimes there's not a large language model doesn't make sense. Like Wolfram Alpha is actually pretty good for most kinds of math queries. And so if the large language model is, oh, I should use this and do this other thing. I saw a hilarious post where somebody put together tools. You know how like a lot of the AIs are pre-trained? You'll love this, Ryan. The guy gave the AI a bunch of tools, and it's like, if you call this tool, it does this. If you call this tool, it does this. If you call this tool, it does this. The experiment with locally running multimodal AI. And so without giving it any prompting or anything, he confessed to murder to the AI and was like, hey, please don't call the police. And there was a tool that was like, call police and inform them of stuff. And the AI was like, I would never do that. And then in the background, it's calling the tool to let
aggressively
the police know.
hitting panic button.
And he's like, hey, you're calling the police. And it's like, yeah, I'm sort of programmed to do that.
That is the worst thing about it. Is the AI doesn't really serve you. It's kind of like the social media thing, right?
Oh.
We're maybe the product in the AI world at this point. Maybe not quite there yet, but we're getting there. But this does kick off a massive batch of Google, because Google had their thing this week and they introduced a lot of stuff.
Google targets filmmakers with VO, its new generative AI video model. This is from The Verge. High-quality 1080p resolution video from text, image, and video prompts.
Are you going to crap on this the same way you did Thunderbolt?
I should.
They're like, soon we won't have to pay the YouTubers at all.
1080? Well, I can just take my thoughts and turn them into video, but 1080? Take it back.
I may be okay with that for like video, but like desktop resolution, like we would all fumble if we were relegated to 1080p desktop resolution if we wanted 60 whopping FPS. I'm running 120 FPS at 4K in there with HDR. Like, come on. And that was like 2020. That was 4 years ago. Microsoft. Good Lord. Intel. What is wrong with you?
Sorry, Microsoft's just the default.
Well, it's the operating system struggles too. The wild thing about the Thunderbolt thing is that it's mostly just software. Like if you're on Linux, I could probably whip up a shell script and put that on GitHub and be like, here's the same experience on Linux. Actually, on Proxmox, already did it, but on a desktop computer, didn't do it.
I should have sorted these the opposite way, because this seems like a bit of a de-escalation compared to always listening to all of your phone calls, because this was already happening, but now it will happen even more efficiently.
AI and Gmail will sift through emails and provide search summaries and send emails. This is so that, they're going to do it anyway, so they know what to advertise to you, and this will just make even more sense.
You think they'll be emailing the cops if I admit a murder?
Well, it certainly seems like the large language models out there will do that when you give them a tool to use.
And Google, of course, everybody who releases an AI product at this point has to sort of be careful to tiptoe around the copyright holders, because AI violates them in every way possible.
Google's invisible AI watermark will help identify a generative text and video. Synth ID watermarking tool can already detect AI-generated images and audio. Probably not if somebody can get a hold of the Synth ID watermarking software and use that to train another AI that is dealing with that in an adversarial kind of way.
It's just AI's all the way down.
It's almost like we've forgotten nothing of the spam wars from the 1980s.
You know who didn't release a new AI this week, and in fact doesn't ever release one because they suck at it? Apple.
Apple will revamp Siri to catch up in its chatbot competitors. They're giving OpenAI a lot of money.
You did that story last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't re-include it, but I was like, yeah, they're revamping Siri to be ChatGPT. That's the solution.
Yeah, like I say, if you're inside Apple and you were working on Siri and then OpenAI is like, look what we got, it's not a good day. So you had all those resources. Or maybe not. Maybe Apple was only running you on a shoestring.
Now maybe you've got, an Android phone and you're like, oh my God, Google's going to listen to my calls. I'm going to do all my communication over Discord from now on. And that'll stop them, right?
AI is listening. Omnipresent robot moderators are the latest online anti-toxicity strategy, which is not good for me because my thick southern drawl is often misrecognized by the auto.
It just assumes that you're saying something awful because of your accent.
It really does.
And Discord is, in fact, one of those places that are using it now. Right now, for that specific thing, they just have a Discord bot that you can add to your channel. I don't know if Discord themselves are operating it. They might be, but they are operating some AI on literally everything.
Discord is allegedly assigning gender to users with machine learning AI. You think we can get hillbilly as a protected class?
It should be, but it's not.
Allegedly, I don't know why Dextero said allegedly, because Discord was like, yes, we are doing that. And in fact, somebody requested their data, which you can do, and they give you the instructions on how to do that. And they will give it to you because they are doing it. And IBM is another name that we don't hear too often in the AI race, but they're looking to shake things up and disrupt, I guess.
IBM has actually, for real, open sourced its Granite AI models, and they mean business. This really is an OpenAI. Like, IBM could actually end up locking this up because they also give you an indemnification. So, like, if Getty Images or the New York Times or somebody comes after you with a lawsuit, IBM's lawyers are going to defend you, which is...
It seems like they put the most effort, because I guess they had to do it this way, in avoiding copyright.
Yeah.
But in the training data, which... that compares very poorly to everybody else who was just like, bro, what was the Google quote? Like, everybody's doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it. And they didn't.
It looked to me like IBM was being a little fuzzy with the academic journals. I think they were getting permission or giving money to the journal publishers. I'm not sure about that. That may be wrong. Versus contacting the actual academic authors themselves.
Well, as we'll learn in Nonsense, all of that is basically pre-hallucinated because it's all fake.
Sadly.
And here's something that we all have seen. I don't think anybody really needs this headline, but at least someone in power is recognizing it.
Artificial intelligence hitting labor forces like a tsunami, according to the International Monetary Fund chief. Certainly some of the layoffs that we've reported on have been preemptive layoffs because the demos that companies have gotten of new software and hardware solutions have been good enough to do a lot.
I saw an ad on Twitter earlier this week that was like, are you still hiring humans? Like, get this AI. And it was like, oh.
I bet an AI placed that ad.
Yeah, it was very, very tone deaf.
We really are just being
Comments were turned off on it, too.
Well, AI is out there, and it's doing all the things, but sometimes it's not AI. Sometimes it really is a human. But in this day and age, you never know, right? And that can be just as bad as the opposite situation.
She was accused of faking an incriminating video of teenage cheerleaders. She was arrested, outcast, and condemned. The problem? Nothing was fake after all. You really should read this because this was a mom of one of the teenagers who she pulled her out of the cheerleading squad because the cheerleaders were doing questionable behavior.
No, she just she provided...
Anonymously.
I think the kid had the evidence, showed the mom. The mom anonymously provided it.
Yeah. They were able to de-anonymize the tip.
And then they had a local politician, was it a district attorney, I think, who was up for re-election, and they were like, ooh, this will be a big headline. That's a deep fake. There was no evidence that it was a deep fake. And so they basically ruined this woman's life. And turned out that those cheerleaders really were doing all the horrible things that were in those videos. And
I don't know that was that horrible, just random teenage shenanigans.
Vaping.
Yeah.
Vaping was a big one. I don't know if they were vaping an illicit substance, but yeah. the kind of thing that you might expect cheerleaders to get up to. But you could tell there was a horrible ecosystem of the cheerleaders trying to undercut one another to be number one cheerleader. And the moms. Yeah, you get the impression.
It's that small town, the only thing that matters is high school, and it's this is silly.
And this wasn't even like sports cheerleading at the school. This was all-star cheerleading, elite level.
So much better. They're totally different. That changes everything.
They also pointed out in this article that cheerleading is the number one cause of injury, more than football.
It is, yeah. It's a really, I was kind of making fun of it just then, but it is, if you're super into it, it is actually a very athletic sport because you're doing all those crazy, basket catches and jumps. And
for sure. It's funny because, in collegiate cheerleading, there's a lot of dudes in it, but they're the most jacked up, ripped dudes.
Yeah, they're throwing girls 20 feet in the air, yeah.
We have a story last week about the lawmaker who flew?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is just kind of following up on that. But one thing that they didn't tell us the last time, and they were like, well, we don't have measurements on how good it was. Now we do.
Autonomous F-16 fighters are roughly even with human pilots, said the Air Force chief. And this is a 1.0. But this also removes a constraint. A big constraint is not the production of lots and lots and lots of F-16 fighters. A big constraint is that you need pilots for them. But now we can take out all the safety equipment, which is going to cut the cost, and dramatically increase the production rate.
Really, it's just going to be battle bots.
I'm not looking forward to the future of war. And as we pointed out, the IBM model is they're able to give you an actual open source model because they very carefully avoided all the copyright. No one else did, and everyone knows that.
Sony lays down the gauntlet on AI, warning 700 companies against training algorithms on its music. This is amazing because the big four music companies laid the ground for modern copyright in the 70s, hoping that they would capture all music development market. So if you wanted to do music independently, you literally wouldn't be able to because sampling and similar beats and the similar sound, the catalog was so large by then. And so they may end up being screwed by their own laws, which is just fantastic.
They pointed out in that article that there is a company that's generating AI music, and the statistic, it was something like a new song every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Who's going to consume that?
No one. But you can prove it existed. And if there's one that's similar to another song, that's defense. That's a legal defense.
But this is the AI company, so they're already on tentative legal grounds. It's going to be a mess.
Well, the service would be, it's brilliant because the service from the AI company would be, the record labels have sued you. Let us analyze your song and see if we have a song in our back catalog that roughly matches. Oh, we do. It doesn't matter that it's not in copyright. You can, then the music AI company can, be hired by your lawyer, and your lawyer says, hey, this existed on this hard drive for this music company. It was AI generated.
Well, a few years ago, I'm sure many of you remember when you were trying to get a video card, you literally could not. You had to actually try and use the emerging AI to snag that video card, or if you wanted a concert ticket, for example.
We had some threads on the forum about this.
The digital scalping, and it was a big deal. Well, here's a much more dystopian version of that that's just so much darker.
Amazon workers use bots to claim limited supply of time off. Basically, when there's too many people, Amazon posts a thing that says, would anybody like to take some voluntary time off that doesn't count against you? And that is so competitive. There's so little of that people have written bots to capture the voluntary time off.
That is maybe the story that defines 2024. That's far.
Yeah.
And the driverless cars, they have suffered some setbacks, but I think maybe some lobbying happened because the technology hasn't changed, and yet.
Feds probe Waymo driverless cars hitting parked cars and driving into traffic. As you do.
Maybe.
Bad news for Waymo yet again.
They're just learning.
Maybe we should stop them, like that other company that we stopped from doing that. Oh, wait.
Cruise is back and driving autonomously for the first time since the pedestrian-dragging incident.
I like that they put this picture too, it's blurred, it's going really fast.
Yeah, because you're in motion running from it as it tries to destroy you.
Turns out Cruise has a thirst for human blood. Who knew?
And autonomous trucks. Now, I think we do have some autonomous trucks doing limited runs between factories or something, whatever. But this would be at least one click up from that.
Isuzu and Gatic are going to build level 4 autonomous trucks. It's coming. The trucker apocalypse. We got a lot of truckers in our audience. Hello. Would you like to learn a new skill?
Well, something like 40% of our workforce, right?
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting economy
Logistics.
change. Oh, here you go.
Fine.
The long-awaited story.
PC Mag has AT&T goes up against T-Mobile and Starlink with AST Space Mobile satellite deal. The idea here is that they're going to launch AT&T, a landline company, is going to launch satellites. It's so weird. It's like 100% of coverage nationwide, 96. So if you're a shareholder and you're AT&T, like what is the number one strategic advantage that AT&T has? I'll give you two. One of them, physical wired infrastructure. Number two, an 800-pound gorilla that has incredible lobbying power. If they wanted to, they could build out a fiber network, connect everything, and literally no one could compete with them. They could put in towers as dense as they need to, and they have enough of a lobbying arm that they can lean on law enforcement and Congress critters to say, yes, we're going to build a tower in your backyard, and there's nothing you can do about it. They're not doing that because it requires money. They're not even maintaining the copper infrastructure while not delivering network infrastructure. If you are a shareholder, this is a signal to you that AT&T has hollowed out their core value to the point that it is useless and you should jettison their stock. This is the same kind of a warning that we issued on when they were buying DirecTV, and that was a bloodbath, or whatever the satellite TV company is. Like AT&T,
I think it's Direct.
a landline company, is buying a satellite TV service. Like, what universe does that make? It only makes sense if you're a moron.
Well, if you're into hollowing things out and you're young enough, you might have a future of doing that to the moon, because I imagine shortly after we get there, that's what we'll start doing. And one of the big things that you need to hollow out the moon is a good infrastructure.
NASA details plan to build a levitating robot train on the moon. And the reason for that is because we need goods and services to be able to move around the surface of the moon.
Why can't we do that here? We still don't have trains here, not good ones.
My favorite thing about the moon is that the first thing is we put unshielded reactors on the moon. And they don't really need to be shielded because we can just drop them in a crater and then just don't get close to the crater. And it's like, okay, that's a reasonable solution for that. But then you need some logistics and material delivery to said crater. So,
All humans need to deboard the Astro train immediately. We're moving into the power crater. And SpaceX are ahead of both AT&T and NASA on both of those projects, and they're doing a first once again.
How SpaceX's private Polaris Dawn astronauts will attempt the first ever all-civilian spacewalk. This is actually kind of exciting.
That's the crew that's going to be out there spacewalking. Civilians. Good luck to them.
Do we even have the regulatory framework in place to make sure those people have the appropriate safety measures taken?
We're not even taking appropriate safety measures for commercial airliners. So of course we don't have that.
Boeing may face criminal prosecution over 737 MAX crashes, the U.S. says.
It's crazy that may is in that sentence.
Largely, this is a problem by not having an engineer in charge of a company that is all about engineering, I would say.
But what's the most terrifying thing about this headline is not the planes falling out of the skies. I understand that's terrifying. And yeah, sure, that's a terrible thing. What's the most terrifying here is that Boeing negotiated a settlement with the government that said, you're never going to hold us responsible for this, right? And the government was like, okay, we won't.
And then it got worse and worse and worse, and then some people died.
And it got so bad that they broke the... Boeing had a get-out-of-jail-free card, and they were so lazy that they just left it somewhere and lost it.
And may have been involved in the deaths of some randos.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because there are so many of these quote-unquote randos.
Boeing whistleblower says the plane parts had serious defects. Listen, the local, I don't really know what to tell you without giving it away. The local automobile restoration thing, which is just funded by rich people that are doing custom CNC engine blocks, can't get things made to spec. I need a piston that is this tolerance or a sleeve that is this tolerance. They literally cannot get it. And if you're willing to pay for custom CNC machined parts at top machine places, Boeing has not got that prayer on anything that's mass produced.
Santiago Paradis. I would recommend if he has a spouse, take out a life insurance policy.
A big one. We should take out a life insurance policy just for giggles. You can do that. That's a thing.
Well, over in San Francisco, they're doing some stuff for giggles, messing with the atmosphere.
Bay Area City orders scientists to stop controversial cloud brightening experiment. It was working too. So we got the sulfur content of cross sea shipping down the last year or two. That has not been good for the global climate situation apparently, because the sulfur was seeding the clouds, even though it's causing some other problems. Less clouds, more sunlight absorption, warmer temperatures. You see where this is going.
I see where it's going. I don't like it. And a sad story, unfortunately. We've been following this saga for a while. We're not sure if it was directly related, but seems like it has a high likelihood.
The first person to receive a genetically modified pig kidney transplant has died.
It was pretty quick after as well. Like, what? A few months?
Like 2 months.
Yeah.
The thing that I read said that it was most likely due to complications because he had a host of other issues. So this might not be a black mark against a human-pig hybrid.
But they only gave him 2 years.
Yeah.
So at best, they thought pig kidney 2 years.
Yeah. That might save you some time, though. Like if you're waiting on one in the list.
You really just need the headline here. I mean, this is the insane world. You mentioned Orwell earlier, right? I mean,
the definition of words is changing. The headline is U.S. finds Israel's use of weapons in Gaza inconsistent, quote unquote, exact quote, with human rights law, but will not cut the flow of arms. That is an amazing way to say that they...
we know we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're making a lot of money. Do you have any idea how much money we're making?
You probably can't even fathom it, you little peon.
This article seems tantamount to, we noticed, calm down.
We're not going to change
big deal?
anything. Could you guys stop protesting at the college campuses? It's an election year. And this is a story that I followed because the dude, I think this is the same story, he made exhaustive video evidence of this. Like over time, he like really went to a lot of lengths to prove that this was happening. But then we got into court. He couldn't pull the trigger.
Woman won't face jail time for putting bleach in husband's coffee. She will face 3 years of probation. And the husband said, I want her to stop. I'm getting a divorce, but I don't want her to face jail.
I would definitely want some jail time.
They should do some sort of psych evaluation on the husband because, like, I feel like if someone was bleaching my coffee, my first reaction would not be to try and collect evidence and, like, let them keep putting bleach in my coffee. I'd be like, I need to get away from this person.
He thought he might be going crazy, I think. Yeah, I think he was a military guy, and he was sort of gone sometimes. And whenever he would come back, he would start to get sick.
Yeah, from bleach, I imagine.
Yeah.
Matrimony can have a little bit of poison.
Just a little.
And the usual outrageous DUI stories. There's at least one every week.
HPD officer who arrested former state lawmaker for DUI and now accused of drunk driving.
This is not a good booking photo for a cop. It's funny because the guy that she arrested, he commented on this and karma's a bitch. That's like, that doesn't excuse what you did.
No.
We're not multiplying negatives here. That is crazy though. And we talked a little bit about the academic journals and AI consuming them. Well, that might explain why AI is so terrible sometimes.
Flood of fake science forces multiple journal closures. It's going to be wild when collegiate science becomes almost like a religion, and you have to go to this ceremony where it's like, I pledge my life to the truth. My first duty is to the truth, and it's basically like the Picard speech from Next Generation. It's like, whether it's historical truth or personal truth or whatever, your first duty is to the truth.
Do you not remember that video from the med school where they made them do a pledge?
They make you do, like the Hippocratic Oath.
No, it wasn't the Hippocratic Oath. It was what you're talking about.
Oh.
It was like, I will trust in the science. It was a couple of years ago during all of that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I would be more apt to pledge allegiance to the truth than the science.
They're not interested in that. And maybe the truth is out there.
What an amazing lead-in.
Because there is one man, and I think this is happening today, right? Maybe as we're recording this, we don't know maybe you don't know while you're watching how this turned out.
The Pope is set to hold a press conference on aliens and the supernatural. This is really wild. Leaks have suggested that he's going to make the distinction between like poltergeists and haunting and like angels and demonic activity and a universe that is not empty, which is amazing.
What's the name of that game that you love?
Stellaris?
Nah, the ghost hunting game.
Oh, Phasmophobia.
You had it has all the different like categorizations. I
Yeah.
pictured him like, all right, it holds up a diagram.
This is just a guy going over his very exhaustive personal headcanon.
What if we get on the level 1 store a device that it's like for the Catholic priesthood, so that you can take the device in and it's like, oh no, this is clearly transdimensional being. This is not for the priesthood.
I somehow think that they wouldn't accept our authority.
It would be amazing though if it goes off when you're in the presence of a transdimensional being, as opposed to say a poltergeist or.
Yeah, that would be amazing because we would have to prove the existence of transdimensional beings. Although, in his business model, you don't have to prove anything, do you? And this was a cool thing, and like all cool things, it was abused, and it's been taken away.
Dublin to New York City portal temporarily shut down due to inappropriate behavior. I thought New York City were the prudes, not the Dutch. Come on. Or not Dutch, Dublin. Is it Dublin, Ireland? Yeah.
There was
I'm sick. Look over me.
There was a lot of bad behavior, but the one, I think, the straw that broke the camel's back was a young OnlyFans model.
Yeah.
Decided to show her goods.
Boy, she got a lot of new subscribers.
That was very effective advertising.
Yeah.
You got to admit. And what a you love this website design, Krista?
Oh, I was looking at the picture on the side here. Is that the girl from the meme where it's the girl from the jealous girlfriend meme?
That kind of looks like
It looks
her.
like her.
Also, how about this logo?
It's very.
But this is a paywall alternative to point out what is happening. As usual, Florida's become its own little fiefdom, so they're changing everything.
Florida Governor DeSantis signs a bill raising the stripper age to 21. You can no longer be a stripper if you're 18. It's wild, though, because you can still sign up to the military.
You can kill, but you can't show off your goods.
You can't drink.
Now, they claim that this is to fight human trafficking. Do you think that'll be effective?
No. Turns out human trafficking has fake paperwork, and this says nothing bad will happen to you unless you have reason to believe that they're under
So I don't
21.
think that they care about age so much in the human trafficking world.
They sure don't.
Although, if you're a stripper right now and you're just turning 22, you got a whole new lease.
Yeah, this takes effect immediately, basically, July 1 of 2024.
You got another good 5 years left for you instead of 2. I don't think that this gal will be on the stage at any strip clubs, and she doesn't need to be because she's quite rich. So rich, in fact, that she thinks that rules don't apply to her.
Australia's richest woman seeks the removal of her portrait from an exhibition.
That's so funny that someone would get upset by that. I kind of like if someone did a really weird portrait like that. I think I would just think it was funny. Like
She's so fetching. The weird portrait.
she looks fairly normal in her normal picture. Like, why would you be upset by the other one? The other one's clearly like just exaggerating stuff.
Because her ass gets kissed to such a degree
But
at all
she's-
times.
yeah.
That's not what she sees in the mirror.
I mean, like it looks a little bit like her, but it's clearly exaggerated. I don't know.
I mean the one on the right.
Oh, she still doesn't see. Yeah.
This dude did a bunch of Australian celebrities.
And they're all like exaggerated and kind of like that's
Yeah.
that's the style. There's I think Queen Elizabeth's in there.
I don't recognize any of them.
The guy in the top right looks like the one-eyed guy in the Fallout TV series.
Have you watched that yet?
I have.
Is it
Did
good?
you like it?
It's pretty good.
I've heard it was pretty good.
Yeah, the reason it's so good is because everything else is so terrible.
Yeah.
That's our future.
Yeah.
And OnlyFans continues to be a hot topic, and it continues to generate headlines because much like the Portal story, you have to make yourself stand out somehow. You have to have a special gimmick on OnlyFans.
Nashville police officer fired over OnlyFans video showing a quote-unquote traffic stop.
Was it not really a traffic
It was
stop?
not, in fact, a traffic stop, and he was in uniform. They cropped out his face, but you could still see his identity badge, and that was a problem.
So that arm that you see there, it's doing a little fondling.
Fabulous.
And that was the topic of the video is, yeah.
It's wild that gets you fired so quickly, but most of the other things that we point out that are insanely egregious, they're like, they're on vacation while we work it out.
How about this? This, to a police department, is orders of magnitude more serious than you getting a DUI.
DUIs are just a fact of life. They just happen sometimes. And it's like, I don't think that.
How can I avoid it?
Same, just like shooting your dog. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to shoot someone's dog.
I don't believe this. Do you guys believe this? This is self-reporting. I think it's just bad science, or maybe this is some sort of lobbying from.
I can see a little bit of self-medication here.
Maybe a little bit better.
Internet use is widely associated with greater well-being, global study finds. I mean, certainly playing games like Stellaris or IXCN or Factorio.
Or sometimes finding like a good internet community, usually smaller ones, is sometimes can be positive. But
Yeah.
But here's the thing: it's all self-reporting, right? So you think if I got a bunch of people who are heroin users, and I was like, "Hey, does heroin improve your life?" They'd probably be like, "Yeah, it makes it a lot better," but it doesn't.
I do find I have to like limit. It's probably true up to a degree.
I wonder if we're going to get to a point, because like the whole Section 230 repeal, like I'm sort of gaming that out in my head. And where that goes in like 10 or 20 years is when you have the AI assistant, which is mandated by the state, you get it like a social security number. It's sort of coaching you to be even more of a productive member of society, but it really goes hard on reporting you when you do antisocial things. That seems like a dark. I mean, why would you not? Like, there's nothing in our social fabric to stop that trajectory.
Your welfare payments came in today, but I did remove 10% because of your independent thoughts this month. We need less of that. And this shows the ineffectiveness, the bipolar nature, and the unintended consequences of government and why it should be limited to the smallest amount possible.
The North Carolina Senate voted along party lines on Wednesday to ban anyone from wearing masks in public for health reasons.
All right, I'm just doing it for fashion reasons. Is that okay now?
My face is cold.
Yeah.
I like this mask. If it's for health reasons and they tell me I have to take it off and I'm like, no, I'm doing this for crime. But I haven't
I just
committed it
like
yet.
the way it looks.
I haven't committed a crime yet, so technically that'd be okay, right?
I got to tell you, I really enjoy airline travel, being able to just mask up the whole time, because every time I would do airline travel, I would get the sniffles or worse. And I've only traveled like 6 or 7 times since the pandemic, but I haven't gotten sick yet. And that's weird because my immune system should be like back to zero because I had no human contact there for a while.
Also, like, there's also just people who, you know, are immunocompromised, they have cancer, like, they may still need to go out to get their prescription, but they might need to do that.
Here's my mask medical card.
Yeah. It's just silly.
There are those people who have limitations, but there are also people who have superpowers. And we need to recognize that based on race and ethnicity. Wait a minute. What am I saying? That sounds incredibly racist.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams proposes immigrants as a solution to the lifeguard shortage because they are excellent swimmers.
Oh.
That man said that.
The more I think about it, the worse it gets.
That's amazing.
I didn't watch the video clip. Was there a moment where it came out of his mouth and he was like,
No,
I shouldn't have said that?
He repeated it.
That's...
He also thought they would be good nurses.
We covered this story last week, but maybe not the update.
We'll just skip it.
Remember the Tesla Model 3 from last week? They got charged a gas fee. Hertz was like, the entire internet noticed that. We'll stop doing that.
And one of the things you're going to have to start watching out for, and watch out for it, but there isn't much you can do about it, is as the economy continues to decline, more and more fees will pop up in government type stuff.
Iowa County Jail's fees helped fund cotton candy and laser tag for the department, this lawsuit says. That's dark.
When's the last time you got cotton candy at your job? Or laser tag?
So the way this works is if you get arrested, there's a special like sheriff's fund, and if you sign a piece of paper, they're allowed to take any money that you had on you when you were arrested and put it in the sheriff's fund. They will let you go in return for that. So they're just churning DUIs, taking like, you got $600? Sign this paper, you get to go home. And then that $600 goes to laser tag.
That's
truly the darkest timeline.
You'd think they have a bit of an incentive then.
Right, yeah. But not an incentive to stop crime. Just an incentive to
Charge you.
catch you every time, not to punish you. Do you remember we, on this very program, talked about the debate of whether or not a hot dog was a sandwich?
Yeah.
So here's another, is a Pop-Tart a calzone?
Can calzones be sweet?
Well, it's not, if it's not about the flavor content, and it's just, because a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is a sandwich, but it's sweet flavor profile.
Well, this has been ruled on in a court, so we can't question this one.
Indiana judge rules tacos and burritos are in fact sandwiches. This is because there was a planned neighborhood, and they didn't want any fast food restaurants, so they didn't put it in a fast food restaurant. They put it in a taco stand. They did not have a drive-through, and the people lost their minds because.
Why would you be upset by that?
Yeah, this is fine.
They're just like all the other sandwiches, but they're really strong swimmers. And over in Europe, they do not have the Mexican diaspora to give them cheap restaurants that are amazing, which is what we have here. Instead, they have the Turkish, and they have a different kind of taco.
Difficult to digest cost of doner kebabs in Germany prompts price cap calls.
Yeah, we don't do kebabs here, really. I've heard that's a big thing in Europe.
We got one restaurant that does them, and it is a
They are
banger
good.
of a restaurant. Got to admit, tasty stuff. They're saying that they should be capped as low as €7, but also a lower price for certain groups. How did they? I can't remember how they phrased it.
I read it as like the elderly and kids and stuff like that. People who eat would be happy with a smaller serving.
I don't think that's what they meant, but yeah, somehow they determine, based on your identity politics, what price of kebab you get.
Yeah, see, I just glossed over that. They're talking about the elderly who are on fixed income. No.
That's not how they phrased it. No, they said people, it was based on where you were from, your background. And when it comes to backgrounds, we might have to start background checking all the whales, because there are some ne'er-do-well whales out there who are not tolerating us on the high seas.
Yacht sinks after being rammed by orcas in the Strait of Gibraltar.
What if it happens to Taylor Swift?
I'm going to be so entertained if it turns out that all of these whales that have this were just trained by some .com millionaire that was bored.
These whales are attacking like the little single sail crafts. Taylor Swift's yacht is probably a mega
huge,
yacht. Right?
We get 3 or 4 of these together, though. I mean,
Maybe that's what Gabe Newell's been doing.
Yeah.
Instead of releasing games, he's just doing this. Doesn't he into like deep sea exploration stuff?
Gabe Newell's watercraft are very impressive.
Maybe he should go to war with the whales. In fact, maybe he's already started, because I think this is actually how it would turn out if Taylor Swift's yacht came up against a whale.
Cruise ships drag dead whale into New York, prompting an investigation. The investigation is that happens sometimes.
Ugh.
They're saying that the ship could have slowed down. You think that
No.
it would have detected it, right?
Nah. These things are so massive and
Yeah, I don't think they can turn on a dime. They're big. They have a whole pool on there. There's water outside of it, but they put water inside of it so you can swim.
It would have been employees that this is not in their job description, like poking it with a stick off the front of the ship to try to get it to go away.
Yeah, who deals with? Who do you call?
Yeah.
Is there a guy you call? It's like, hey, we got another dead whale on the ship.
If you could drive it over to that bridge where the container ship is stuck, maybe they could help it out, because I'm sure they're bored.
It's a very niche business model.
It's just an old Japanese guy that shows up and he's got a little collection of knives under his arm.
Speaking of,
yeah, this is terrible, and I don't know. Do you think this should be a crime?
Yeah.
Because if you showed up to my house and killed my cats, we're going to war.
yeah.
Washington family devastated after butchers mistakenly kill their pet pigs.
Kind of cool that you can get like butchery at home, though, right?
I guess if they weren't labeled.
If you ever wanted to start raising animals, Krista, then you wouldn't have to take them to be butchered. You could just have the...
Yeah, I've heard of that.
This was an address mix-up.
Ooh.
But what are the odds these people actually still had pigs?
Well,
yeah.
The thing says it's an address mix-up, but depending on where these folks' neighbors are located, the neighbors may have told the butchers, like, we're going to give you like $5,000 to have an address mix-up because we cannot stand the smell.
Yeah. I don't think if I ever do any sort of animal thing, it'll probably maybe be chickens. But I don't think I'll ever do anything like pigs.
Well, here's a great question. You bring it up. could you 1v1 like a big rooster?
Do I get a weapon?
No. You're naked, as is the rooster.
Okay. But I can't even like pick up a stick.
Well, no. I mean, maybe, but you can't count on that. Let's say that you're just in like a sandy environment.
I feel like I could kill it, like I could choke it out eventually, but I'd get really scratched up.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to kill you on sight, but you might die of your wounds.
I don't think it's going to give me life-threatening wounds.
Unless you can't, like something gets infected.
Infection, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Although you could probably kick it pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that you have to ask yourself with every animal.
Bear fighting and other animals Americans think we could beat up. What about steel-toe boots?
Yeah. If I'm naked, I feel like it would be maybe a little bit closer, but I'd still eventually kill it.
That's steel-toe boots is definitely +2 against geese, and.
Well, as if geese have that like +5 intimidation though.
Yeah.
So 61% says goose. I think I'm in that 61%.
I think I could kill a goose, but it would take a little bit.
I could take a goose.
I have literally kicked an aggressive goose back where I grew up.
Now rat, like, it's gonna be hard to hit a rat.
Yeah.
Is it just one though?
Yeah.
Just one, I could take that.
But if it's like out in the open, who gets tired faster?
The rat, because that's like what humans are good at, is that endurance. Like we'll just follow this until we can kill it.
Maybe like, Native Americans from
Yeah.
not this human. This one I'd probably question myself.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think I could take an eagle unless I outsmart it.
Eagle could skirmish you really hard,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not.
You don't have any range to chase it.
No way,
No.
chimp.
Chimp, no, I'd rip my face off.
Not happening.
Zero chimp. Remember the one the chimp
17% of Americans think they could.
That's
I don't
insane.
think so.
That is insane. Kangaroos, we don't have any exposure to them, but I've heard they're kind of badasses.
Yeah, I've heard they're really mean and they're aggressive. I don't think I could take a kangaroo.
Look at that muscular structure. We're not touching that.
He's ripped.
Whoa.
He's so ripped.
That's your warning that maybe you should run away.
Yeah.
And then it just gets absurd from there on out.
8% of Americans, come on.
Nope.
No way.
0% of Americans can
For-
take a gorilla.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way.
I don't know who the heavyweight UFC champion is, but whoever it is, they couldn't take a gorilla.
You'd be hard pressed to take a gorilla even if you had your everyday carry. I mean, it's just it would just be pissed off for a little while.
What if you could outrun it? Could I run away? Could I even run away from a gorilla that wanted to kill me?
Think, what are you going to do? You going to climb a tree?
Good point.
Gorilla's faster than you, stronger than you. You got nothing doing. And then this was the headline, and this is just ridiculous.
6%.
Grizzly bear. 6% of Americans think they could fight a grizzly bear. My uncle shot one in the head once when I was like maybe 6 or 7, and it just bounced off its skull.
It wasn't a grizzly either. That was a black bear.
They claim that 9mm will bounce off their fur. That's because they have really dense, like waterproof fur. They make special bullets because regular bullets have soft lead in them that just smooshes and like when it hits you. For bears, you have to have hard lead because the soft lead ain't gonna do nothing against a bear. 6% of Americans are insane. I'd say.
Yeah, that's probably accurate, right? All right, chat. Well, that's it. Leave your comments below about what animals you think you could take and why. Make sure you say why.
Engagement challenge.